This is Liz Scafidi at UN News. There will be no damage whatsoever to the environment from the discharge of seawater used to cool the broken reactors at Fukushima nuclear plant, the head of the UN Atomic Agency, Rafael Grossi, has insisted. Although people's concerns are totally justified, it is also worth bearing in mind that the filtering process used to strip the water of radioactive elements is used at nuclear power stations all over the world, as Mr. Grossi tells UN News' Daniel Johnson.
What one is going to have is an operation where the IAEA experts will be involved before, during, and after the discharge of the water. This is going to be a long process.
And how much, I'm just going to jump in there, how much water are we talking about? More than 1 million tons, 1.25 million?
More than that. You have to imagine like 500 Olympic swimming pools. So it's a lot of water. Of course, it's not a lot of water compared with the ocean. And this is one very important point. We have to dispel some misinformation or fake news, if you want to put it more colloquially, that are floating around this thing. First thing that needs to be understood is that when this process starts, what is going to be released is not contaminated water. It is going to be water that will have undergone a number of cycles of treatment until a point comes where, first, most of the radionuclides included or that were present in that water are completely eliminated. And there would just be one of them, tritium, that remains, and it's very difficult to separate. But one must say, again, first of all, is already in nature. You have tritium in water already naturally occurring, if you want. And so the idea is that when you release that water, the levels of this radionuclide are even lower than those in nature.
So sorry, you're just so that I can just explain this properly and understand it properly. The water from the Fukushima Daiichi plant has been filtered, highly filtered. It's taken out the strontium and the cesium, which are radioactive isotopes, but not the tritium, because you say it poses little health risk in low concentrations and it is linked to hydrogen anyway. And because it's going into water, H2O water, it will be diluted. That's the thinking.
That's the thinking, that's the concept. And let me tell you that we are not trying anything new here. What is going to be done is being done every day as we speak. And not only as we speak, in America or...
From other nuclear stations, you mean? From other plants?
Of course. And in the region, in the same region. In plants coming from, countries that have expressed concern. So what we are doing there is guaranteeing, if you want, certifying at every step of the way that the process is being carried out according to the internationally agreed standards which exist, and in a way that is environmentally neutral. There is no damage whatsoever. So when I hear these concerns, we are not frustrated. We explain one more, and as many times as necessary. There is not going to be a Pacific Ocean which will be glowing green or yellow, killing fish, creating a catastrophic. The usage adjectives is mesmerizing sometimes, but we are there to explain and to provide all the guarantees that this is going to be done in this way. If it wasn't the case, we would be saying it as clearly as we are saying the opposite.
So should fishermen and all those who work with the water around Fukushima and in the wider region, it's safe for them to go about their activities? It's safe for people to eat fish? Or it will be whenever you start, in 2 years, I believe.
Well, it is as it is now. Again, people should know that the presence of the IAEA and of other international groups of experts, for example, the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, UNSCEAR, has performed a number of exercises and monitoring in markets, in shops, in restaurants, in all sorts of places where you perform random analysis. And there are precisely a few weeks ago, a new report from UNSCEAR has been made public. So this process is ongoing. Let me say, at the same time, that all these concerns from the local population, from the fishermen, and even from the region should be taken very seriously. One should not set them aside, one should not disregard them, one should treat them with the utmost respect, in particular in the region and for the local population, because this is the mainstay, their economic activity. So apart from the purely scientific, technological evidence, of course, there are other issues that have to do with the reputational factors that, of course, in a market economy have a lot of weight, and we have to be looking at those. So from our point of view, what we are going to put on the table is what we can put on the table. And this is the technical expertise and the transparency that can only come from the IAEA, if you wish, since you are talking from the UN system, which we provide as multilateral organizations, this seal of quality and impartiality that would never be able to be ascertained coming from any individual nation, as it were.
And so final question to you, Director General Rafael Grossi from the IAEA, the UN Atomic Energy Agency. There is no alternative to what is happening now, to the discharge of this filtered water from the Fukushima plant. There's absolutely no other choice. It can't be stored.
Well, you could continue storing the water ad vitam aeternam, but let me say that this would not be sustainable in the long run. It entails other risks. Let me give you an example. In February, maybe you heard that there was another earthquake in the same area, and it was quite an important one, not a minor one. And there, of course, some of these tanks moved. Some of these tanks had very minor cracks. Of course, we were there accompanying our Japanese colleagues, checking on those, and there was no overspill or nothing of the sort. But you cannot exclude these things happening. So what you must do is to treat this water, to make it environmentally neutral, and to dispose of it. So this is a viable, technically sound solution, and this is why the IAEA is ready to certify it. Otherwise, we would not.
And I guess very last question, having seen how misinformation spreads so quickly with COVID, with the pandemic, you could have the same thing very easily happening with the Fukushima process now. So do you feel that you're equipped to deal with this flood of criticism that is coming at the Fukushima process now?
Well, I think what could be done is what you and I are doing now. That is one example, trying to explain in good faith what is being done. We shouldn't be naive. We know that a number of external factors may converge around this issue, some environmental, some economic, some even political, should I say? Why not? We understand. This is part of the world and the reality in which we live. But at the end of the day, it is also, and yet again it's good to say it in this context, it is also a very strong vindication of multilateralism and international organizations that are there to provide a platform that people can trust.
The Japanese government says once treated, it's safe enough to be released.
We will attain a level of safety far above the regulation standards, and the government will take exhaustive measures against harmful rumors. We have judged that release into the ocean is a realistic option and decided it is the policy to follow.
We will now hear an address by His Excellency David Panuelo, the President and Head of Government of the Federated States of Micronesia.
Mr. President, Secretary General, fellow world leaders, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings from the paradise in our backyard, the Federated States of Micronesia. It is my honor to address the UN General Assembly, and in doing so, I bring a warm kaselelie on behalf of my delegation, the leadership, and the people of the Federated States of Micronesia to all of you in attendance today at the 77th session of the UN General Assembly and those joining us virtually from across the globe. I express my country's gratitude as we join other members of this august body in extending our heartiest congratulations to you, Mr. President, on your election to the presidency of the 77th General Assembly. Mr. President, speaking further about the common heritage of mankind, today Micronesia wishes to express our gravest concern about Japan's decision to discharge, starting next year, nuclear contaminated water, otherwise known as Advanced Liquid Processing System, or HALPS, water into the Pacific Ocean. We cannot close our eyes to the unimaginable threats of nuclear contamination, marine pollution, and eventual destruction of the blue Pacific continent. The impacts of this decision are both transboundary and intergenerational in nature. As Micronesia's head of state, I cannot allow for the destruction of our ocean resources that support the livelihood of our people.